Let's go now to the Resources Minister, Keith Pitt, who joins us live from Bundaberg. Good to talk to you, Keith. First up, you've been travelling around the country a bit during this campaign, haven't you? It seems to me that Labor had been hoping to make gains initially in Queensland. It seems to be falling flat. And there seems to be concern in the Territory too, that the two lower house seats there, both held by Labor, Solomon and Lingiari, the coalition seem to be hopeful of picking up at least one of those. What's going to happen in Queensland and the Territory come Saturday?
Chris, great to be with you and great to be with your viewers. That's entirely up to the voters, mate, as I'm sure you're aware. But we are hopeful in both the Northern Territory and, of course, across Queensland that we can stop what would be a very dangerous Greens Labor government led by Mr Albanese. We know what they would do to our economy. We know what they would do to the resources sector. We've seen this movie before. 2010, we saw that alliance. We saw what happened. And the Australian people haven't forgotten. So we're very hopeful of being able to make some gains on election night. We've put our proposition forward. It's a very clear choice between a strong coalition government and what you see from Mr Albanese. And I saw some very brief footage this afternoon after coming back from Childers, Bundaberg, Bargara, Maryborough, Hervey Bay and Aldershot. He did a runner.
He has done a bit of a runner. I'll come back to that in a moment. But when we talk about Queensland, for instance, Longman's the most marginal seat, but can you foresee a situation where perhaps you can hang on to Longman, but you might lose the inner city seat of Brisbane?
Both Terry and Trevor are incredibly strong local members. Terry's got a background in retail sales and he came off the tools originally. Trevor is very well known, works really hard, gets across the electorate very, very often, and they're well supported. But in both of those areas, we are seeing this Labor lie, Chris, about the cashless debit card and pensioners. Not only do we not have a plan to do that, we will not be doing that, and it would be an incredibly dumb thing to do. So there is absolutely no proposal around the cashless debit card for pensioners, but it continues to be proposed by the Labor Party. It's just outrageous.
Where is it appearing? Is it in campaign material? Because absolutely, this is completely an invention and it's designed to frighten pensioners.
Well, we saw what happened with Mediscare and they're trying that again. But we've seen social media, for example, we've seen lots of commentary from those in the opposition. It is completely made up. No government would do that. It is a ridiculous proposition. These are people who have worked hard, they've retired. And the CDC, I've got one of the biggest trials in the country in my electorate. It's very strongly supported because it works. Those are the fundamentals.
All right, just getting back onto the electoral dynamics, of course, as a Nat, you'd be interested in what's happening in the New South Wales seat of Hunter. That's a potential gain. Do you think that confusion over Labor's climate policies, their energy policies, their attitude to coal mining could see Hunter lost by Labor?
Oh, we've seen the Labor Party outright say that there's no future for coal and gas in this country. That's from people on their shadow front bench. So I think the individuals, the workers, those hard-working families in the Hunter understand that the coalition stands strongly with them. We support their industry. We recognise what they do for our country in terms of the economy, and I'm incredibly proud of them. It is a real opportunity here to demonstrate to Labor once again.
It's interesting we haven't heard more from the retiring member, Joel Fitzgibbon. He used to be out there strongly talking on these issues. He's disappeared from this election debate. Sure, he's not up for election, but surely his good sense on these issues would be reassuring for Labor voters in Hunter. Why aren't we hearing from him?
He turned out last time I was there, Chris, to try and counter some of the information we were putting forward. Unfortunately, mine was based on facts, as Joel was very much aware. Labor's they've walked away from what was their working class base. They just don't represent those individuals anymore. I mean, Joel tried hard. He tried very hard inside the party to get them to reposition.
Sure.
But ultimately, the Labor Party machine has beaten Joel and he's retiring. And I'll thank him for his service. He's been an absolute stalwart for that community for a long period of time. But there's a new opportunity here, and that is with the Nationals in the Hunter, and we are standing with those hard-working men and women, as we will continue to into the future.
Yeah, sounds like he's doing a bit of local campaigning, but staying out of the national debate, and that would make sense. I suppose they don't like what he says when it comes to climate policy and the coal industry. I want to get back to what you were saying, as I showed at the top of the program, Anthony Albanese cutting a press conference short today, doing a bit of a bolter. He does point out, though, that he'll be fronting up at the National Press Club tomorrow, and it's always a home game for Labor, but there'll be some tough questions undoubtedly. And he makes the point that Scott Morrison is not doing that traditional event. Here's Anthony Albanese earlier today.
But what I won't do, and you might like to consider this, is that we have a Prime Minister who isn't even giving you the respect as the National Press Gallery of appearing at the National Press Club before an election. The first Prime Minister who has not done that, who is ducking that responsibility.
Well, forget about showing respects to journalists, but shouldn't the Prime Minister turn up and do that traditional appearance? Albo's going to be there tomorrow.
Oh, Chris, there's been a number of debates already. And I mean, Mr Albanese is not half bad. He can't even manage a press pack, no matter the Press Council and the full gallery. But you know, we've got to look at what this is about. This is a very clear choice for voters. If I look at my own seat, we had over 6,000 people pre-poll yesterday without knowing what Labor's costings are. There is a reason they are holding off. They don't want to tell the Australian people about their great big plans for more taxes. They don't want to tell them how much it will cost to have a Green Labor government. This is why they delay these things for so long. We've been up front. We've put more than 30 policies through for costing. Everyone knows what's in our budget. They know how we operate. They know we will be strong on national security. We'll continue to build what is a $2 trillion economy. This is the risk of a Green Labor government.
Thanks for joining us, Keith.
Hey, it's great to be with you.
Keith Pitt there, the Federal Resources Minister. It's not a bad point he makes, is it? Anthony Albanese there telling the journalists he's showing them respect by turning up at the National Press Club. A few minutes later, he cut short the press conference and did a bolter.